Hello and welcome to Inside Sports. I'm Wes Decker. At least that's the name I'm going with for now. And the reason I say that is because after more than half a century, the company responsible for bringing you this show, Antietam Cable Television, is now Antietam Broadband. And I heard a month or two ago that Dunkin' Donuts, after 67 years, is going to change its name to just Dunkin'. Therefore, after some years as Wes Decker, I almost feel compelled to do something myself. After all, it would seem that name changes are in vogue. Perhaps with Dunkin' dropping the donuts from its name, I could just become Wes Donuts. But that spelling has always bothered me, the donuts. Maybe in today's world, it's all about what Double D is doing, opting for a single name. It works for Rihanna, Drake, Kesha, Adele, Bono, and Pink, and it's worked quite nicely for Madonna, Prince, Yanni, and even Liberace. But Wes, or even Wesley, just doesn't seem to have the same impact. I need to spice it up, and I think it just came to me. Forget the one name thing. Try this one on for size. Wes Despacito. No, I've got it. Wes Pasito. Well, maybe it should be one name. It's so good you can almost sing it. Heck, somewhere in the recesses of my mind, I can hear my boy Justin Bieber singing it. Simply thinking about it makes my heart race. Oh, yeah. Ahead on IS, soccer and Week 1's football with Herald Mail Insiders KD and Parse. And speaking of Week 1's football, North Hagerstown's captains, three guys I simply refer to as winners after Friday night, are here with yours truly, Wes Pasito, when we come back.
Champions are not merely born, they're forged in the crucible that is flag football. With equal parts turf, pigskin, and heart. That's why Buffalo Wild Wings donates to boys and girls clubs across the country to not only help thousands of kids learn about teamwork on and off the field, but to help them fulfill their destiny. To shred defensive lines, terrorize the secondary, and emerge bonded as true champions.
When you're sick or hurt and can't be seen by your regular doctor, you just want to feel better faster. Make a convenient appointment or simply walk into Meritus Urgent Care, where you can receive attention from our caring professionals, from sprains and strains to sore throats, earaches, and other ailments that are not life-threatening. Meritus Urgent Care has you covered with on-site labs and x-rays and much more. We're conveniently located on Pennsylvania Avenue in Hagerstown at the Sylvania Center. Feel better faster with Meritus Urgent Care.
Welcome back to the show. We continue with football now, and the North Hagerstown Hubs coming off a resounding win on Friday night over Cesar Chavez by a score of 54-0. It was the most points the Hubs have scored in a single game since back in the 2013 season in Week 9, which happened to be their last winning season, and trying to embark on one of those this year. And I'm joined now by three of the victorious Hubs from Friday night, Jacob Sprecher, Lane Hammond, and Randy Robinson. Welcome to the show, guys, and congratulations on the win on Friday night. Randy, let me start with you as a guy who plays on both sides of the ball. First of all, let's start with that offense. I mean, 54 points. How encouraging is it to start a season by putting points on the board like that?
It makes us want to keep winning because we felt how it feels to win for like once. Because our first game, we never really – it usually was the other way around. Like someone else would score 54 points and not. But how we did it was, because I remember a couple days before that, Jacob Sprecher was like, if we score a quick 14 points, it's our game. So that was like our goal when we got there.
So do you think he's a prophet now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jacob, obviously you called it. I mean, you know, put 2 touchdowns on the board early, and you're on your way to a win. And as Randy said, in all seriousness, the win certainly more important than the number of points that you scored. Yeah. I mean, how good does it feel to get off to a 1-0 start?
Well, it's the first feeling for me. I mean, I've never started off since 1-0 since like junior league. I mean, one win's like 1/3 of what I've had, so that's pretty. To win like that, it's pretty good. And I mean, I knew coming into the game, we scrimmaged them last year, and I knew this was the type of team that if you just got in there quick and you can get their heads down, that you can just, it's going to be easy. They're going to get down and just going to start getting their own heads. So I knew if we came in quick, and you know, we have an explosive offense too. Like any seconds a play could just bust open and it's just a touchdown from anywhere on the field. So I knew, knowing having that offense, that was very likely that was going to happen.
Lane, did it surprise you at all that since you are breaking in a new offense this year, that you would go out and put that many points on the board?
A little, yeah, but we've been working this offense, most of the summer, and we've just been really trying to get it down. And we had a longer preseason and longer practices and stuff, and I think we really got it down pretty much.
Yeah, 336 total yards, 256 yards rushing, averaged nearly 8 yards per running play. And somebody here on the set amassed 178 yards on the ground and scored 4 touchdowns. Now, Jacob, as a senior who hasn't experienced many prolific nights like Friday, I mean, tell me a little bit about when the momentum started rolling in the right direction for you, just, how this team fed off of that.
I mean, we really get excited in practice a lot. Like, if something happens big, like, everyone's going crazy, and that hasn't really been the case in the past. I mean, we've been just, like, if something happens and doesn't go away, our heads go down, just like I've called with the other team. Like, our heads go down, and we're just kind of going in a shell, but I knew that if we come out and, just roll, then we were going to roll. And, I mean, I knew, like, I've played with this offense since I was in, like junior league. But I mean, as soon as I got to high school, it changed up, and we were like sitting in the gun. But now that I went back to the I was really successful in junior league in the I formation. It's just the way I run. It's like downhill, and I knew that was gonna this offense was just gonna be like something that our team could. Because a lot of our kids played on junior league together on that team and like another team, and I knew it was just gonna click.
Yeah, there wasn't much that went wrong on Friday night, Lane. I mean, 17 first downs, 5 of 6 scoring in the red zone. Only turned the ball over 1 time. So where do you go from here? I mean, that was a tremendous effort. Obviously, you go week by week as the season goes along. But what's your mindset now heading into week number 2?
Really just feels good to win. And like one of our coaches says, winning, the feeling of it's like contagious. Yeah. And we just want to keep that feeling going.
And Randy, the way the defense started on Friday night wasn't bad either. Really harassing their quarterback. They didn't help their cause a lot with some of those snaps that took a long time to get into the backfield. But as a guy on that D line, how much pride do you take away from pitching that shutout? I mean, it must feel good to look up there on the scoreboard and see you didn't give up any points.
Yeah, it changed a lot of people's heads in like our school. Like our whole student section was like, "Wow, North is actually winning." Yeah. So we're like, it makes me feel good about myself. It makes a lot of people on my team feel good about themselves that we're actually winning. So we just have to keep that going.
Is that a big thing right now, Lane, the belief from this team itself? I mean, is that the key to success now?
Yeah, I mean, this year's it's a lot different. We're really a stronger team together this year, and we just want to keep it going.
Jacob, how confident are you that you can continue to put together the total team efforts like the one that you saw on Friday night? I mean, every game is probably not going to be 54-0, but at the same time, that effort that went into that performance, how confident are you that you guys can keep that going?
I think that our offense is really consistent. Like, I think that even no matter what team we play, there's still going to be like runs we break off for 20 yards. There's still going to be passes we're going to throw touchdowns. Like, I don't think any team's really going to stop it just the way our system is. I mean, some teams can give us some problems for sure, but I really think our offense is going to continue to be explosive. And on the other side of the ball, defense, I feel like we have a pretty solid deal. A lot of experienced players on defense, playing like their positions for a long time, and I think that's definitely going to contribute to continuing to win.
Well, really great to have you guys here after a Week 1 win, and look forward to watching you throughout the course of the season and putting together some more victories for North Hagerstown. As you said, it's been a long time, long overdue, especially for 3 seniors here. Thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you.
I'm back right after this. More football to recap from Week 1. Bob Parsaliti joins me in just a moment.
Want the latest new release movies today? With Movies on Demand, you'll get these titles before Netflix and Redbox.
She did something to me.
Captain Underpants, you can't actually fly!
I take to the sky like an ostrich!
What are you?
In the name of all that is good, your wrath upon this world is over.
Watch the newest collection of movies on demand before Netflix and Redbox.
Labor's Office Furniture now has a large selection of in-stock FlexSteel home furnishings. After 43 years of establishing itself as the place to find top-brand office furniture at warehouse prices, great deals on FlexSteel home furnishings have come home to Labor's. Stop in to see Labor's FlexSteel inventory today.
At Hamilton Nissan, we know you've got places to go, so let's travel together. The Nissan Rogue, plenty of room for you and plenty of room for him. With nearly 40 cubic feet of cargo space, everyone will be using the Rogue for everything, all the time. And on occasion, you'll find an evening for yourselves, and the Nissan Rogue will be right there with you. Hamilton Nissan. Let's travel together. Come see us on the Dual Highway.
Welcome back to the show. We continue with football now, and on Friday night, Bob Parsalitti was at Boonesboro for the Warriors' home opener against Catoctin, and I think a lot of people just thought it was a given that Boonesboro, coming off the season that they had a year ago, would just come out and start like gangbusters. And I don't make any excuses for what happened on Friday night, but at the same time, whereas a team does not score 4 touchdowns without doing some things on their own, but the ball just didn't seem to bounce Boonesboro's way at all.
Well, I think according to Clayton Anders, the coach out there at Boonesboro, I think that crowd that you're saying that thinking they were going to walk out and win included the team. He was very upset with the way that they kind of came out in that game. Catoctin did a great job. I mean, Boonesboro's got a lot of things to figure out. All they really have are the 2 tackles coming back, and they have Ben Bergen, who's a tight end and a linebacker, and they're the main guys that are back that were starters last year. Catoctin goes out and just runs away from the tackles. I mean, they started going wide and spreading everything out, and then after they spread everything out and forced everybody around, they started going up the middle. And they really had Boonesboro on a string in that case. And with all that, they were getting not huge yardage, but they were getting, 1 play first down, 1 play first down. And they drove the field and they scored quickly. And then the last touchdown ends up being a lateral that bounced and nobody went after, and a guy picked it up and ran it in for a touchdown. They're down to 28-6 at the half. But something happened in the second half. They held Catoctin to just like 66 yards of offense the second half. And they got the momentum back. And they came back, and they had a chance to win that game in the final drive. It just got away from them.
Yeah, got all the way back to within 28-21. I think a lot of people forget about the fact that Catoctin has a pretty good football program, too. So to lose to Catoctin, it's not like you're losing to a huge underdog. I mean, Catoctin 7-7 the last 14 games against Boonesboro. And I know that was on Boonesboro's home field. And again, what the Warriors have done certainly resonates with everyone here. They've been one of the upper echelon teams. And I think still, I mean, it's only 1 game. We're 1 game into the season, so I wouldn't push the panic button at all. Boonesboro goes on to win the next 9 games. Nobody remembers this one.
I expect them to be a much better team this time. I think, in the last quote of the story that I wrote, Clayton says we have to convince these kids that you have to work on Monday through Thursday, basically, and not just come out on Friday, which basically says they probably can't. And, the funny thing about it is that's been kind of a theme about that Boonesboro's team for the last couple of years. Every time I've gone in to talk to Clayton about his preview, he's always saying the guys aren't practicing hard. They're thinking that they're going to be able to just glide through there. And, you're coming to the end of a group of kids that have been that from the beginning, that it's all worked that way for them.
Right. The success is something that they've seen, and maybe they take it a little for granted until they get pushed into a corner. A little bit of adversity pops up. But Boonesboro out of the gates now 0-1 at home against Silver Oak coming up on Friday. And they'll be without Jake Humble, by the way, who will be out with a concussion. St. James and Clear Spring, and man, it was all Saints from the very beginning of this one. 74-12, the final score. The county's reigning and defending scoring champion just isn't ready to relinquish its crown anytime soon.
Now, it was amazing the way they came out. They scored on the first play from scrimmage, on the third play from scrimmage, on the 4th play from scrimmage, and the 8th play from scrimmage. They had 4 touchdowns in the first 8 plays. They had 9 offensive touchdowns and 21 plays in the first half, and had 10 overall in the first half.
400 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like they were scoring short touchdowns either.
No, but I think what basically happened is that Clear Spring got in a situation where they, coaches always say this and we all go, ha, 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 but they can't create the speed they saw. So that speed, after facing the guys that they normally face in practice every day, was probably up a notch or two from that. And I think it really caught them, and it was very disconcerting to them. I think they didn't know how to give a cushion, it seemed like. They didn't know where to pick their spots to rush hard. So when you're doing that, you're just kind of standing around, and teams go right through you.
Yeah, the athletes on that St. James team seemingly just kept coming. I mean, the guys at the top there, Jalen Anderson, John Mechie, quarterback Tyler Raymond Groshot. I mean, 4 for 4, 4 touchdowns. Doesn't get any more efficient than that. And the Blazers falling behind 47-0. I mean, it's almost impossible to make up a deficit like that. And then their quarterback, Cole Easterday, goes down in the second quarter of the game. Looks like he's out for a couple of weeks. I talked to Coach Johnson. He evidently in concussion protocol. Also a player for St. James getting hurt late, backup quarterback there, winding up what really looked bad. I mean, taken away to the hospital, and evidently that is concussion related too. So
at the time they thought, they weren't sure if it was concussion, but he was having some problems feeling with his neck.
Yeah, Jacob Dugas.
Yeah,
I had a text exchange with athletic director Jim Fahey, and he told me that looks like it's concussion related, and it was all precautionary to take him to the hospital, but obviously very, very scary. But St. James goes on to the easy win, and now they get Mercersburg at home coming up on Saturday, a team that defeated them last year 35-19 at Mercersburg, a game we'll have on Antietam Cable.
Well, actually, Mercersburg has won the last 5 against.
5 in a row now.
Yes.
Huh.
And
wow.
And the series is 7-5 in favor of Mercersburg. So I mean, it could be an interesting game. The thing about it, though, is that Mercersburg has not played yet.
Right.
For starters.
This will be their opener.
And on top of that, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how St. James translates this game last week to this week, because there's a tendency to get a big head when you throw up 74 points.
Yeah.
That was the 4th time in a year that they set a record for their for scoring in a game.
And we'll find out just what they got out of that game too. And Clear Spring now having to go to a backup quarterback already. Another sophomore will take over as the Blazers will be at home against 0-1 Brunswick on Friday. Plenty more football to come. Bob, thanks for being here this week. Kevin Dunleavy joins me to talk more football in just a moment.
If you add it up, 12 spots a year for 25 years, close to 300 different commercials I've used Antietam Cable Production for. In terms of the experience with the production department, the truth is, we've become friends because we've done it so often. The staff is very, very professional. They make it easy for me to do the spot. That's the biggest thing. And we have a lot of fun doing it. And it works. It brings people to the dealership. And that's all I can ask.
Premier concentration, premier confidence, premier achievement, premier martial arts, concentration, confidence, and the ability to achieve is in every child. Premier Martial Arts brings it out. Call Premier Martial Arts today to bring out the best in your child.
Welcome back to the show. More football now, and I'm joined by Herald Mail insider Kevin Dunleavy for this segment. Kevin, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Wes.
Well, I know plans didn't exactly go as they were drawn up on Friday. Williamsport was supposed to be playing at home under the lights. They didn't wind up playing at home under the lights, and they wound up playing at home then on Saturday. So it was off to Smithsburg for you, and you got to see the Leopards in their home opener, which was really kind of a tale of 2 games, but there was one thread that sort of permeated the entire game, unfortunately, and for Smithsburg, it really wound up sort of throttling back what they hoped to be able to do.
Yeah, they got off to a rough start. They were down 23-7 or 27-3 early in the second half, but once they adjusted, they really found a way to compete, and they scored 2 touchdowns. They were right there to score a 3rd touchdown, which would have made the game really interesting. The other team, deeper, faster, bigger, but Smithsburg found a way to compete, and they were the fresher team in the second half despite having less depth. So that's a big positive for them, I think.
Yeah, Southern Garrett wins it 33-15. but a lot of penalties in that game committed by both teams. And as you said, Smithsburg just digging a hole that they just could not dig out of. And now it's off to Delaware to play a Delmar team that they lost to at home last year. I guess maybe the good news is Delmar hasn't played a game yet, and Smithsburg has one under its belt. And as you said, a second half that the Leopards hopefully can build on. Meantime, then on Saturday, Williamsport finally got to play at home. They had a huge crowd show up on Friday night, so you hope that they would all come back on Saturday. Maybe not quite as large a crowd on Saturday, but nonetheless, a lot of optimism around this Williamsport team, as we talked about last week, and they made this one very interesting against Manchester Valley.
Yeah, they showed a lot of good stuff. They moved the ball up and down the field. Manchester Valley couldn't move at all against them, but they just had a tough time getting the ball in the end zone. They got in Manchester Valley territory 10 of their first 11 possessions.
Wow.
And but to only come away with 12 points is rough. It looks like they're trying to do too much. Maybe they need to just pull it back and get a little more basic, a little more simple, and maybe just try to give the ball to Kayvon Carter a little more, who was sensational. You know, he had a lot of big plays, and they just didn't cash in on enough of them.
Yeah, 2 touchdowns called back by penalties, 392 yards to 73. And sometimes, though, Kevin, really, when you get right down to it, when you can pick up a W in a game where you just don't play your best, that's not a bad thing in the long run, and you expect a lot of improvement from game 1 to game 2. That's where the greatest improvement should happen. So we'll see what Williamsport can do, and they're going to have to, because they'll go on the road where they haven't been ultra successful over the last several seasons, and they'll play a Century team who's kind of had their numbers. So we'll see how that goes coming up on Friday. South Hagerstown and Hedgesville, not a whole lot of points to go around, but what interested me from this game that I thought was very intriguing was the passing game meant so much. South Hagerstown, 2 passing touchdowns, and intercepted 6 balls that were in the air from Hedgesville. 7 total turnovers forced by South, and I guess we shouldn't be surprised by that. Even though Hedgesville had a game under its belt last season, South Hagerstown's defense was its calling card.
Yeah, and that's what we've seen a long time. They've got a good amount of starters back, a good linebacking crew, and you expect that to carry them throughout this season.
Yeah, so a big win for South, and now, boy, you talk about wanting to avenge a loss from the previous season. They'll head to Westminster. South didn't have many defeats on the resume last year, but one was at Westminster. What do you expect in that particular match? I mean, these are 2 pretty good football teams. Westminster also 1-0 coming into this one.
Boy, that was last year I covered that game, and that was a completely different game than what South played in week 1. That was an offensive up and down the field. Jays Wassanone was running up and down the field, and they ended up losing a really tough game. So I think they'll have a lot of motivation to make up for that. They won't be surprised by what Westminster will do. Westminster got a couple of votes in the state poll this week, so they've got a little bit of, South would love to knock them off and maybe get in that poll themselves.
Yeah, it never hurts to take that as a little bit of motivation into a game like that too. And again, they already have it, having lost 41-19 last year to Westminster. And it was Green Street Academy over Hancock, 30-13. I had a chance to exchange a couple texts with Coach Rupenthal, and he just said, really what happened was we hung in there. We played really hard offensively and defensively, but it was the special teams where we let down a little bit. 2 kickoff return touchdowns allowed by Hancock in that game, and when you see a margin of 17 points, that was pretty much the difference. But Ethan Souders at quarterback instead of Reese McLean, and Souders had a pretty good game overall. 2 touchdown passes, ran for 59 yards, and on defense he made 11 tackles, so it looks like he's going to be a staple to that team offensively and defensively throughout the season. Hancock will try to get into the win column coming up on Friday at home against Mount Carmel, a team that hasn't played a game yet, so hopefully Hancock will have a little bit of an advantage there and can get that first W of the season. So that wraps up week 1's football, but Kevin, don't go away. When we come back, we'll talk some soccer as the soccer season is underway. Kevin and I do that when we come back.
Antietam Broadband's Flight Gigabit service is ultra high-speed internet delivered by a direct fiber connection. We are one of the few communities in the country to have it. But what does it mean? It means businesses will want to move here, which means more jobs, better jobs. It means access to world-class infrastructure for healthcare, education, and nonprofits. It means enhanced social and economic well-being. That's why it won the 2017 Leading Edge Award from the Chamber of Commerce. Flight Gigabit from Antietam Broadband, changing how people connect.
Welcome back to the show. It's time for soccer now, and Kevin stays with me for this. And let's begin with boys soccer, Kevin. Williamsport Wildcats last year had a tremendous season, 13 wins. Now this year, the magic number again is 13. It's 13 seniors for Coach Downs on this particular team, and they really challenged themselves to begin the season without a county tournament this season. Went to Glen Burnie on Friday for a couple of games there, and man, they came away with results that the coach is very pleased with.
Yeah, they beat traditional power Broadneck 2-1, and then they tied Glen Burnie 0-0, but it sounded like they actually played better in the Broadneck, or dominated Glen Burnie 17-7 in shots and just didn't get one through. But Chris Downs, their coach, Williamsport's coach, was thrilled with how they played
against 4A competition.
Yeah, against and their fitness level, and their depth. He said he played a lot of guys, so just a lot of positives to take from that.
Yeah, with the experience that he has this season, it's one of those years where it's kind of a make or break type of deal. In that with 13 seniors, you're going to have a great deal of turnover, obviously, coming next season. Also, a note from boys soccer, the city tournament games that were scheduled for Saturday at South Hagerstown postponed 2 weeks. That is a week from this coming Saturday. So neither of those games were played because of the weather. Now, the girls did play, and in girls action in the first game, it was Clear Spring over St. James, 5-0, a dominant effort by the Blazers.
Yeah, they really looked like they were in midseason form. We knew they were going to be good with 10 starters back, and then several talented freshmen coming in. They're loaded. They showed their depth. They didn't stick with their starters. I mean, they ran reserves out there in the second and in the first half, and no drop off there. So everything looks great for them. Grace Weber had 2 goals and assists. Gabby Conrad 2 goals and assists. Grace Weber's emergence, that's a big positive for them because she's been on varsity a couple of years, hasn't really been a big factor offensively, but she really showed a lot and had a sensational shot in the second half, tucked one right in the corner, and she's a rifle shooter. Has gone to the National Junior Olympics in rifle, so she can shoot with her foot as well as her finger.
She knows about hitting targets, is what you're saying. So, and for Clear Spring, this a big week if both games are played as scheduled. Smithsburg and Boonesboro. So a couple of big games. And Clear Spring, with that win, moves into the championship of the city tournament coming up on the 16th. And the team that will face, maybe this is a bit of a surprise, especially given South Hagerstown's past, because they've really struggled of late. But the Rebels, boy, they look like a formidable team. Defeated St. Maria Goretti 3-1.
Yeah, Matt Snyder, their coach, was excited in the preseason. They got outscored 88-4 last year. They hadn't won a game in 2 years, almost 2 years, and he was excited because he knew he had some incoming freshmen, and he knew he took over last year, so he knew his program was sort of starting to get going as far as commitment from girls, toughness in practice, working hard, being competitive. So there were positives, and then the addition of the new players really kind of has put them over the top. It looks like they're going to be a team that will be much more competitive this year. Yeah, and a couple of proven quantities for Goretti in that game, and Victoria Baker and Zoe Muchler really testing goalkeeper Tyra Martina of the Rebels. Ball was on the south side of the field a lot other than when they were scoring, and their 3 goals obviously more than enough, but Martina, 24 saves in that contest. So clearly, you build from the net out, and South Hagerstown right now really finding the right formula. That's a great start, and congratulations to them to start the season again. The wins have been few and far between for the Rebels, so to start the year with that victory and get to the championship game
of a tournament. I mean, to play Clear Spring, that'll be a true test coming up a week from Saturday, no question about that. Kevin, thanks so much for being here this week. Certainly appreciate it. Next week on the show, not sure everything that we'll have, but it'll certainly be headlined by Week 2's football. So that and much, much more. Hope to see you next time right back here on The Inside.
Hey, your sisters and your brothers, your haters and your lovers, you gotta get up in the streets.